Okay, so today what I wanted to share was just a little bit of an update to filming on Monday. How was it? What did we talk about? And what's really the next steps? What's happening next? So I we went down to London. I left here, Yorkshire, about 6 o'clock. It was very quiet because it was the Queen's funeral. Um, so the trains were all running, and managed to get down there for about 11, a bit late, and then kind of caught the tube up to Nick's. And I recorded a video on Monday, which you might have seen, which was as I was walking up towards his consulting rooms. I realized, yeah, wow, I used to live 200 meters that way. And that was the first time I started to question my mental health. Working in the city, starting to see kind of violent images, started to feel depressed, struggling with certain addictions. And I went to see the doctor. And I'm not going to go into more depth, but essentially, he laughed me out of the consulting room. And speaking to Nick a little bit about that on Monday, there were some tears for me. It was a really tough time of my life, because a week after I went to see the doctor, I had left the flat, my partner. Essentially, I was homeless. I was just sofa surfing for a few months. Sorry. That was a difficult time where I contemplated committing suicide. So yeah, how was the filming? The filming was great. It was challenging. One of my things when I'm interviewing people is I can dissociate, and being there with the lights on, I could notice myself at times, especially after we'd been there for a few hours. It was like, okay, I'm starting to dissociate a bit, not really taking this on board. Still feel very, very passionate about it. Nick spoke a bit about Boris Johnson, a bit about David Cameron. He spoke a little bit about Tony Blair as well, all ex-boarders, and just how their leadership is, and how would that affect them as an adult? Are there signs and symptoms that he sees which are typical of an ex-boarder? So talking about that. He went through the 5 reasons that an ex-boarder doesn't make a good leader. And that is, as I mentioned in my video about the cost of living crisis, this idea of these 5 ideas. I'm not going to go into much depth now, but it's like the left hemisphere of the brain is focused on in boarding school. So you're just analytical. But he says without that emotional side, without the intuitive side, we don't make good decisions. And he points out in the book, and he mentioned this a bit on Monday, this idea that someone made a study of all of the decisions that the Conservatives have made, and something like most of them, if not all, have just been bad decisions. And it kind of makes sense when you look, and this is over the past few hundred years, it makes sense if you look at it that they don't have the emotional side. And that's what we need to make good decisions, to have empathy for others, to think, how is this going to impact us? I've mentioned this before, the native First Nations talk about this idea that how is what I'm going to do today going to impact the next 7 generations? That's that emotional quotient. How is it going to affect the environment, the nation, the people? Whereas as ex-boarders, is what he's saying is they don't have that emotional quotient. That's squashed out of them at boarding school, and therefore they can't make good decisions. It's all short term. Right, let's make money. My friends make money. It's like, no, we need to really think long term. So the other thing is objectification. This idea that because of boarding school, because of this left hemisphere education, we objectify humans. We see them as objects, and therefore that means we can, we'll can we don't see them as humans. We don't have empathy for them, and therefore we can make really poor decisions because of that. The other thing he said, and whether we got it on film, but he just mentioned he'd received an email from a lady who'd done some research and saying that 52 out of 92 world leaders have not just been to boarding school. The incredible statistic is that 52 out of 92 have been privately educated in the UK. That's incredible. 52 out of 92 privately educated, and he didn't say boarding school, but I'm presuming if they're from abroad, they're going to have boarded. Yeah? So I just think that's incredible that same kind of those aspects of the boarding school syndrome filters down into all of those other countries. And one of the things when I was leaving London, I was listening to an interview with an MMA fighter talking about poverty, and she was just saying, it's almost like the elite, the establishment, she called it, don't, they don't understand. They have no kind of appreciation what's going on for the poorer people. She was talking about Priti Patel coming to Liverpool, and she didn't even get out the car. It's like, it's just, right, I've been to Liverpool, but, they don't actually connect. And this, for me, is very similar to what Nick's saying. And he says here, could it be that the British working class act as an entire group? Could it be that the British working class as an entire group have been suffering projective identification from the upper classes? Have they been standing in for the stupid, messy, incompetent children the latter wish to distance themselves from in their own collective psyche? Could this explain some of the unhappiness, the lack of self-respect, the grimness that sometimes marks the British working class as distinct from their counterparts in Europe? So I feel that this story is so important to get out there. Could it be that the reason we've got this energy crisis, this cost of living crisis, is due to this psychological condition that's not just in the UK? If 52 of the world leaders have been to boarding school. I mean, Imran Khan was educated in the UK, who was the Pakistan Prime Minister for several years. It's like, wow, it just goes through so many different places. So that's some of the things we spoke about, and I think this is, the next step for us is to create the trailer. So we're going to take out probably a few minutes of what Nick spoke about, put it in with, some of my own journey, including, what it's like to go off to boarding school, put that together and make a 3-4 minute trailer, which we can then put out there to start bringing some awareness to, we want to make this film. Are there people out there who want to hear this story? And I feel the more I study this is one of the most important questions of our time. If we can help these leaders to heal, to speak up, to to really find out what the working class are going through at the moment, to open their hearts, I feel there's a huge chance of healing here. That's just my opinion. I might be totally wrong. But, as Nick was saying on Monday, people have kind of ignored his work. And I think it's incredible. If you've not read his book, pick it up, read it. It is incredible on so many levels about what we're living through at the moment. So, any questions, please do let me know. And thank you for your support. And once the trailer's out, I'll let you know. So next week I'm off on holiday. Probably won't do a video. But yeah, I've also done another video about Joy Chavrin's workshop, which is you will find also that I've updated today, uploaded. So please do go off to that. It's in the 1st of October, 10 a.m. till 1 p.m. Online. So, and the final thing is, I've booked in Petter Sandström Sangren for my podcast in 2 weeks' time. He is a professor of education, and he wrote the thesis Globalizing Eton, just about exactly what Nick's saying, how many world leaders have been to boarding school, and how the British boarding school model has been, globalized. So, okay, well, thank you very much for your support. Take care. Bye for now.